What is up, everybody? Mr. Purtis here. Welcome to Unit 6.1. We're doing Causes of Imperialism. Unit 6, this is the same time period as Unit 5. So you're going to see a couple connections going on here with Age of Revolutions, with industrialization, with responses to industrialization. So we're going to see some couple things come together here. And really, this unit pretty much takes off at the later half, really during the Second Industrial Revolution. So although this is considered 1750 to 1900, in that time period, most of what we're going to talk about in this entire unit is really like the 1850s to the 1900s. So it's really the last 50 years. And we're really looking at a lot of the impacts of industrialization. So the overall Unit 6 would really be impact of industrialization. But we're going to go here with 6.1, which is Causes of Imperialism. So without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling here. First is, what is imperialism? I know you're asking yourself that. So let me break it down for you. This is the idea in the mid-1800s that European countries, including, and I'm going to, this offshoot, which is, it's mainly Western Europe, but then we also have the US and Japan, are going to go out and conquer areas in the world either through force, through military conquest, or through diplomacy, through negotiation, and basically saying, we're going to come in and take over. You can either like let us take over, or we're going to do it by force. And they're going to look at areas of the world to try and conquer. This is very, very similar to 1450 to 1750 when the Europeans went out and conquered areas, especially in the Americas and some areas in Southeast Asia, which is going back to unit number 4. But this is what we're going to end up. If you just take a second to look at this map here, you can see the different color areas are the areas that are going to be conquered during imperialism. So we're looking primarily at South Asia here, Southeast Asia, and Australia. Shout out to Australia. We've not talked about them yet. And then primarily Africa. You'll notice that Latin America, which had just gained its independence in the 1820s, is going to stay, for the most part, not conquered again. But we're going to see a lot of European countries going in here. The green, by the way, is Britain, and the yellow is France, which are the two first countries to industrialize. So they're really going to have kind of a leg up on everyone else. So a little contextualization about this, just to kind of set the framework. So imperialism is the conquering aspect of it. What leads into this is the first half, really, of this time period, which is, so it's kind of weird with contextualization here. Usually we talk about contextualization in the previous time period, which would be 1450 to 1750. But for this contextualization, we're going to stick within this time period. And what we see in the first half of this time period, like I mentioned before, is Western Europe and the United States are industrializing. And that gives them a huge advantage over countries that are not industrialized. They're going to have better weapons, better technology. With the Second Industrial Revolution and chemical development comes new medicines, and these things allow for them to conquer. But in terms of the medicines, they're going to be able to enter areas, and by they I mean Europeans, that they couldn't enter before because people died of disease. For example, mosquito bites and malaria. Now we come up with medicines to stop that, so the Europeans have access to go into deeper parts of Africa, for example. Plus, if you go into deeper parts of Africa, you can build railroads that can take goods in and out of there when before you really couldn't do that. Also, just a reminder for contextualization that, like I said, the colonies in the Americas become independent. A lot of the European countries, as well as the United States, kind of lose some of these markets. And by markets, I mean they lose their forced labor. They lose the people, their mercantilism. They lose this. So they're kind of looking for new markets to open up. And with industrialization and these new products, they're looking to expand their markets to sell to more people, because the goal of any business is to make as much money as possible. And if you can expand your markets and open up a new area, for example, South Asia, you also get all the people to buy your stuff there. Also, they're looking for they're looking for natural resources for their factories, and they're also looking to sell these goods. So there's a couple causes of imperialism. I like this acronym, which a student many, many years ago, don't even remember who it was. Sorry, student, who I don't remember who it was, came up with this acronym called NERDS as the causes of imperialism. So imperialism is caused by nerds. And this is my easy way to kind of remember what the 4 causes are. So if you ever have it on an essay and it's causes of imperialism, you just go boom, boom, boom. So the first one is nationalism. We've talked about this in Unit 5. And nationalism is the idea of pride in your country. Or it can also mean competition between countries. So for example, if I'm in Britain, I don't like the French. And the French and the British have always kind of gone head to head and haven't liked each other. So if I'm industrialized and France is industrialized, and France goes out and conquers an area of the world, I'm going to feel the need to conquer as well. And there's going to be this competition where if I conquer one thing, they want to conquer one thing. And then if I conquer 3, they're going to want to conquer 4, and then it keeps going on and on and on until we kind of run out of areas to conquer. So there's a lot of competition through this nationalism, a lot of pride, a lot of I need to be better than you, almost like a sports competition. I need to do one up you in order to show I'm superior. So that's going to lead to a lot of this conquering and attempts to have these goods industrialized. Second is economic motivations. It's the idea that we are industrialized and we want to sell our industrialized products. Britain is small. There's a large population, but it's like a tiny island. And if you're industrialized and trying to sell your factory goods, you're limited to how many people there can actually purchase these goods. But if you go and conquer India, you can open up the Indian market to all of your goods, and then you can sell more products by forcing those people to buy your products, like mercantilism. Also, like I said, there's this desire for these natural resources, for this production of goods. So we want more cotton. Remember, we were getting cotton from the Americas before. Now the Americas isn't part of our colony, so we need another market, and we just want more cotton. So we can open up areas that can grow cotton for us. Also, rubber, which grows on, if you didn't know this, rubber grows on trees. It's tree sap. So we need that for machine parts. There's oil by the 1900s that we're going to need. So we have all these natural resources. That's a motivation as well. Third thing is religion. The European countries, many of them have this desire to spread Christianity. Some people legitimately want to spread Christianity and believe that they are saving the souls of the people who are not Christian. Other people use it as an excuse. Oh yeah, we want to convert people to Christianity, when really they just want to open up these markets. So there's this kind of double side of this. Kind of a famous quote here attributed to 2 different people. One is Chinua Achebe, who is a West African author from Nigeria. Another is Desmond Tutu, who's former Archbishop of South Africa. They both are kind of credited with this quote. You don't need to write this quote down or memorize it. It's just kind of this mentality of when the missionaries came to Africa, they had the Bible and we had the lands. They said, let us pray. We closed our eyes. When we opened them, we had the Bible and they had the lands. That's kind of the African, especially West African perspective in South Africa, of that idea of spreading religion. Last one, and this is kind of the racist side of all this, and the D and the S need to be flipped for the nerds, but neither here nor there. This is called social Darwinism. We'll talk more about this in class because this needs to be hashed out pretty well. But Darwin, during this period, came up with the idea of the theory of evolution, which I'm sure you've all heard about, that animals have evolved and human beings evolved from chimpanzees, essentially, and over time became human beings. In social Darwinism, they take that theory of evolution from Darwin and put racial tones on it. So they basically say that the more white you are, the more advanced you are. And the darker your complexion, the more closer you are to animals. And in Darwin's theory, it's survival of the fittest. The strong conquer the weak, and they kind of enforce their ideas on the weak people. And similar to that, the Europeans are going to take that concept and that idea and say, because we are more industrialized, we're more advanced, we're more intelligent, because we're from Europe and we've gone through the Enlightenment and industrialization, we are therefore superior to the non-white people, both in terms of just evolution, and as a result of that, we should go out and conquer these places. We are more advanced, and we should help the non-white folks around the world go out and become civilized, because we, the Europeans, are civilized and those people are not. This is straight up just racist mentality. And there's a lot of different ways to show that the other side is more advanced than the Europeans were. But this is the mind frame and the mentality. This is the justification for going out and conquering people when you're promoting enlightenment and democracy in your own country. Like, how can you justify that? Well, you say those people are beneath us and we have the duty or the need to go out and conquer these people to help civilize them. But again, we'll kind of hash this out. This idea of social Darwinism comes up a lot on the AP exam because it's like the crux or the main argument for going out, and it's really, really racist, which is not uncommon in the 1800s to say stuff like that. Last is just kind of one impact. This doesn't really fit going forward, but I just want to mention this. With conquering these areas, we're going to see the beginnings, and I will get more into kind of the connection with this, but we see a lot of transnational businesses open up. If you're a British business and Britain's going to go out and conquer, let's say, South Asia and Australia, you're going to try and expand your business into these areas, not just for natural goods or natural resources, but also just your business. And one example is what's called HSBC. This is a British bank, which still exists today, by the way, and they have offices throughout the world. This actually is a picture of all of the places in the world that HSBC today in 2019, hope I don't date myself in 5 years from now when people are watching this video, but HSBC has banks all around the world, and it starts during this period as with better technologies and better communication between areas. So there's that. And these are called transnational. Trans just means across, so we're going across nations, but we talked about that in Unit 1, I think. And then also we have financial markets. We have the other thing that's going to be transnational is we see the beginning of stock market exchanges where people around the world can invest in businesses all around the world. And that's just an example of transnational. So this doesn't fit well. I just want to drop it in here. It's kind of just keeping in the back of your mind as we conquer, as places are conquered, this ends up happening. So that's what I got. That's 6.1. That's causes of imperialism and this one little impact. Nice and neat. We're going to move forward and go some examples of how imperialism specifically plays out in different areas, but that's more to come. As always, you got any questions, you write it down, you let me know.